Hey guys, my name is Alexandra Valentine and welcome to my YouTube channel. So in today's video we are going to be drafting, cutting and sewing this elastic wide waist pant. So let's just get straight into the video. So first we need our fabric. So I have about 2 yards of fabric here. If you're a plus size, you might need 2.5 yards of fabric. So now I am going to go ahead with the front part of the trouser. So I'm going to be folding my fabric on a fold of 2 like this. So in order not to waste fabric, I am folding this with my round hip measurement, which is 9 inches, then 2 inches for stitching allowance, and then 2.5 inch for my crotch extension. So that's the width of this fold that we have here. Then I'll just go ahead now to start marking my vertical measurements. So to start marking my vertical measurements, I am going to be minusing 2 inches for my waistband from the top, and then I am going to mark the full length of the trouser. That's from your waist to the floor length. Then now I'm going ahead to mark my crotch measurements, which is your crotch measurements divided by 2 inches. I'm just going to mark it there, and then also mark my hip line, which is from my waist to my hip. That's 9 inches. So on those points now, I am just going to extend them into a straight line so that I will be able to have my horizontal line. Okay, so it's on this straight line that we are going to be marking our round bust, our round body measurement. So because I'm making use of a mid color fabric, the chalk is not showing that much, but I'll try as much as I can to make it very visible. So I am just trying to retrace the straight lines so that the lines will be visible for us to see. So that's better now. Now I am going to be marking my round hip measurement just on the hip line there, and then I'm going to be adding 2 inches for stitching allowance. Then this measurement I'm also going to transfer on the crotch line as well. So I'll also transfer that measurement to the waistline. So basically just transferring that measurement on the hip, from the hip line to the crotch line and also on the waistline, so that we'll be able to make a straight line for our crotch. Okay, so I've connected those points together in a straight line. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to coming down from this part from by 0.75 inch, and then I'll be connecting it with my ruler in a slanted form just into the waistline like this. Okay, so the next thing now is I'm going to be using my curve ruler to connect from the crotch extension into the straight line. Okay, so please, for you to be able to have your crotch extension, you have to divide what you have on your hip area. Mine was 9 inches. That's your hip divided by 4, divide by 4 again. Whatever it is you have, that's going to serve as your crotch extension. Okay, so I'm just connecting it in a curved line into that line. Now I am placing my 2 inches on the edge of the fabric so that I'll be able to get the full length of this trouser. So after marking it, I'm just going to go ahead to cut through that point. So make sure to add at least 2 inches for the hem allowance, so you don't end up having a jump up trouser. So you just continue cutting on the edge of the trouser like this. Since the wideness is the leg of the pant is wide, so we are not going to do anything serious to the leg area. Okay, so by the time you get to the crotch extension, you just stop. Then you continue cutting through the crotch curve that you made earlier and all the way to the top. So once that is done, you're going to cut open this folded edge. Remember that when we were cutting this, the fabric was on a fold of two, so this part now was closed. So this closed part, now you are going to just open it up, because this part that we are cutting out now is the front of the pants. Now that that is cut open, I'm just trying to show you guys how I went about my crotch extension. So this is me dividing what I had on my hip by 4, which is 9 inches divided by 4. So I have about 2.25 thereabouts. Then I'm just going to mark it from that straight line. Then I'll cut the excess. Okay. So one more thing, on this line, that's from the waist to the crotch line, you're just going to divide that point into 2, because I do not like to have this bulkiness around my private area. So I like to reduce it. So I will divide it into 2, then come in by half of an inch on that part I divided into 2. Then I'm going to connect it to the top, to the waistline like this, and then use my curve ruler to connect from that half into the crotch extension like this. Then now I'm just going to go ahead now to cut the excess out. So once that is done, we are just going to move forward to the next part, which is um the back pants. So again, I have folded my fabric on a fold of 2. Then I just took one part of the front part, placed it on the fabric. I made sure that I have excess around that crotch area, because the back is quite different from the front part, and the difference is around the crotch area. So you want to make sure that you have at least 3 to 4 inches wideness from the front part. Okay. Another difference to note is around the waist area. So usually the front waist area is usually lower than the back waist area. So you just make sure that there's a space around at the top or at the waist area. So what you just do is to drag the front part a little bit down, and also ensure that you have enough space at the crotch area as well. So on the crotch area, I'm just going to mark my crotch extension, the same crotch extension I used for the front. I'm going to mark it, but this time I'm going to start from the crotch extension where the crotch extension stopped for the front part. That's where I'm going to start to mark it from. Okay, then because this is going to carry an elastic around the waist, I'm going to be marking 2 inches around the crotch line like so. So you just go ahead now to, I'm just going ahead now to um define the crotch extension for the back, and then I'll use my curve ruler to connect to those 2 inches marked point I was marking from the crotch line. Okay, I hope I'm not speaking too many English, and I hope it's very understandable. If not, you might want to rewind back to get it right. Okay, or you just leave your questions in the comment section and be sure that I'll answer. Now, after connecting it, I am going to be connecting from the top there. Remember that I left space at the top. You want to leave about 1 inch space maximum. Then I'll just connect it into the waistline on the side. So after that, I'll just go ahead now to cut this out. I am also going to trim off the sides. Okay, then also cut along the crotch area and the side as well. So before I cut out the side, I'm going to be adding 2 inches at the leg area on the crotch side. Okay, I don't know if that makes sense, but you can see what I'm doing and you can just repeat the same on yours. Now I'm going to connect in a dot in a straight line all the way to the bottom part, just 2 inches. Then I'm connecting it into the crotch extension. Then I'll also now go ahead to cut out tracing the lines. So now that that is done, we have the front part and the back part ready. We just go straight into the sewing part. So on the side I'm just going to be coming down by 1 inch so that I'll be able to notch under 1 inch. So this is where the pocket is going to start from. So I want to make sure that it's uniform on all the 4 pieces I have for both the front and the back. Okay, so I'm just going to keep this aside now and cut out the pocket. Now to cut the pocket is just a very simple way. I'm just going to fold this on a fold of 4, fold it 1, then fold it 2. So this is not enough. I'm just going to extend it more so that the pocket is a little bit deep and wide. Okay, so for the wideness, that's the depth of the pocket. I'm going to be making use of 6 inches. Then I'm just going to place my hand on it like this so that I'm sure that the whole of my hand fits into the pocket. Then I'm going to use my chalk to just trace round my hands like this. So once that is done, I'm just going to cut it out following the line I drew. So at the end of the day, this is what we have as our pocket. Now I'm just trying to arrange it so that I'll be able to cut open this folded part, because this folded part is the part that is going to be joined to the pants or the trouser rather. So I'm going to bring back the pieces of my trouser so that I'll be able to join the pocket to it. So first thing first is to separate the back from the front. So this is the back and then this is the front. Now I'll go over to my sewing machine now to stitch down the crotch areas on both the front and the back parts, and I've done just that. So this is how it's looking at the end of the day. So this is the front part and that was the back part. Now I'm going to go ahead now to take one piece of the pocket I cut earlier. Remember that it's 4 pieces, so 2 pieces for the front part and then 2 pieces for the back part. So I'm going to remember I notched this part, so it's from this notch point now that I'm going to start stitching my pocket or attaching my pocket piece rather. So I'm just going to repeat this process on all the notch parts on the sides of the trouser. So I'll do it both front left and right for the front part and also left and right for the back part. Then I'll just come back and show you guys what I have. So this is how it's looking like for the back part and also for the front part as well. So this is how the front part is looking like right now. So the next thing to do is to join the crotch area. So you want to make sure that you align the joining part, and then you still start stitching from the middle all the way through to the leg area. And then once you're done with this side, you start from the middle again and then continue stitching to the other side of the leg area. So let's just go get that done. And also you're just going to open up or spread out these pocket pieces like this. Make sure that both sides are facing each other, the right side of both sides are facing each other. Then you are just going to stitch. So I'm just going to be stitching with 1/2 inch. Then when I get to where the pocket is starting from, I'm going to sew around the pocket, come back to the trouser again and continue stitching all the way to the hem. Okay, then I also repeat the same thing on the side as well. So I've gone ahead to do just that. I've joined the crotch and inner thigh area, and I also joined the side of the trouser. So this is what I have it looking like at the end of the day. So next up, I'm just going to flip this inside out so that we'll see how it's looking like. So if you got to this point, this is how yours is supposed to be looking like at the end of the day. And you can see how flexible the pocket is, very wide and very deep. Now the next thing to do is to attach our band, and in order to do that, because we've not cut out the band for this trouser, we are going to take the round waist measurement of what we have. So not your round waist on your body, the round waist of the trouser you're working with. So just note where you're starting from. If you're starting from the middle or the side, note where you're starting from. Then you go all the way around until you get to where you started from. So whatever it is you have there is going to serve as the length of your waistband. Okay, so now I have gone ahead to cut out a very long strap of waistband. The waist is going to be 2.5 inches on fold and 5 inches Y flat. Now for the length on fold, it's going to be the measurement you took for your round waist on the trouser, divide by 2 plus 1/2 inch. So supposing I have 14 inches as the round waist, I'm going to divide that 14 inches divide by 2, which is 20, plus 1/2 inch, which is 20.5, and that 1/2 inch is going to serve as the joining allowance. Okay, so this measurement is only when the fabric is on fold. If it's not on fold, please kindly impute the exact measurements you took from the waistband or from round the waist of the trouser plus 1 inch for joining allowance. So right now I've gone ahead to add mine, to mark mine, and I do have an excess there, so I'm just going to trim out this excess. So you don't want to have an excess. You want to make sure that you're working with the accurate measurement, the exact measurement you took out, you measured from the waist, so that by the time you're attaching this band to the trouser, it's going to correspond respectively. So up next is to open up the band and then just stitch with 1/2 inch to join the band together. So that's the 1/2 inch we added when we were cutting it out. Okay, just for the, it's meant for the joining allowance. Okay, so now I've gone ahead to do just that. After that, I'm just going to cut out the elastic that I'll be making use of. So I'm making use of a 2 inches wide elastic waistband, and then for the length, I am going to divide my round waist measurement, divide by 2 plus 4 inches or 3 inches. Okay, so that's what I'm going to be making use of. If you divide the band into 2, the main band into 2, just add about 4 inches. Then I am going to go over to the sewing machine and join this like so. Or any other way you want to do is, you might as well just take the elastic around your waist and then just cut out the excess. Okay, then the next thing to do is to take this elastic in between the waistband like this. So what I'm doing here is I'm making sure that the part that has the joining are aligning. So I'm just going to use my pin to hold it down so that it does not move from that position. So you can see how I'm going about it, about the waist, the inserting of the elastic. I'm just putting it in between the band, okay, in between the band. I want to make sure that the elastic is on the wrong side, which is going to be the inside at the end of the day, okay, so that you don't have your joining poking out by the time you're done stitching. So now I'm going to go over to the sewing machine and sew on the edge, just on the edge. Make sure that you're not sewing on the elastic, okay. So this is the reason why our elastic was cut with 2.5 inches, because our waistband is 2 inches. So you want to make sure that the waistband is more than the elastic, like it covers the elastic. So I have done that, and this is what I have at the end of the day. Now I'm also going to go over to the sewing machine now to run straight stitches, 2 straight stitches on this waistband. So while I'm sewing, I'm going to be stretching it like this, and then I'll run the first stitch round it and then the second stitch, making sure to give at least half of an inch distance between all the stitches, okay. So I make the first stitch, give half of an inch, and then I'll make the second stitch. Then I'll come back and show you guys what I have. So this is what the waistband is looking like. I've made the first and the second run stitches on it, a straight stitch on it. So this is what it's looking like. Now I am going to attach this elastic band to my trouser, okay. So now that part that has the joining is going to go to the back part, okay. Then I'm just going to place it like this, align the part that has the joining to the joining of the back. Then I'm going to go over and stitch it round. So this is what we have at the end of the day. You can see it's looking on it. Now you can see that the elastic aligned with the trouser, like the waist of the trouser. You can see how it's looking like. So now the next thing to do is to open up 2 tiny holes on the middle channel of this elastic, 2 tiny holes. So this is where I'm going to be passing my rope through. So I'm just making 2 tiny holes on the middle channel, okay, making sure that you give a distance between the 2 holes. So now I am going to go ahead now to pass my rope through one of the rope in the hole and then bring it out from the other part. I will also go ahead to hem fold the hem of the trouser, fold one, fold twice, and then stitch round. I'll do it on both sides of the trouser, and then I'll just come back and show you guys the finished result. Ta-da! This is what we have at the end of the day. Rope inserted, and then the hem of the trouser has been neatly finished. You can see how beautiful we have this elastic waist trouser, oversized trouser, whatever it is you want to call it. So this trouser was really beautiful. Like, I rocked it very well, and it's a very versatile trouser. You can make yours and tag me on Instagram or send the picture to me on Instagram, and I'll be sure to make a repost. Thank you so much for watching. If you find this video very helpful, do not forget to give this video a huge thumbs up and also hit on the subscribe button to join the family. Until next time, bye.